2009, the gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Boren, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't come to the House floor very often to speak. In fact, last year I addressed this body only a handful of times. I think that I'm much more effective in representing my constituents by developing relationships in a personal setting rather than arguing my viewpoint on the House floor. But today marks a special time of year. Mr. Speaker, the month of March is Colon Cancer Awareness Month. I think that it is only fitting that the month of March, a month where Congress has the most legislative workdays, is devoted to an illness that is often relegated to the back burner of cancer awareness. Obviously, colon cancer is not an issue that garners a lot of headlines. But colon cancer has had a dramatic effect on my life as it has millions of Americans. I want to bring a picture of my mom up. "11 years ago, my mom died of colon cancer. She was a vibrant woman. She was filled with joy. She was filled with optimism. This horrendous disease took her from earth far too early. Because of colon cancer, she never had the opportunity to hold her granddaughter. She never had the opportunity to attend my wedding and see me marry my beautiful wife, Andrea. It's a tragedy that has forever left a void in my life." You know, she was like so many mothers. She was always so proud of her son. She was always pushing me. She always cared about my grades. She always cared about how I did in school. And I was probably not the best student, but she kept after me. She kept telling me how smart I was, and she kept pushing me. The last memory I have of my mother is in a hospital room dying from this disease. She didn't get to see me become a congressman. And like all Americans who have felt the pain and fear that comes with losing a loved one to cancer, I wouldn't wish that grief on anyone. The reality, Mr. Speaker, is that I am not alone. This disease kills tens of thousands of Americans every year. It is the third most diagnosed cancer and one of the leading causes of cancer death in the United States. The American Cancer Society estimates that 150,000 Americans will be diagnosed with colon cancer in 2009. And out of that 150,000 citizens, over 50,000 of them will die from it. What is so shocking about these deaths is the vast majority of them could have easily been prevented with a simple routine screening called a colonoscopy. That is 50,000 moms and dads and sons and daughters that could still be enjoying the great gift of life if they would have just had a routine colonoscopy by their 50th birthday. Mr. Speaker, a colonoscopy takes under 1 hour to complete, and the results you receive will literally save your life. The American Cancer Society estimates that if detected early, 90% of all colon cancer deaths could be prevented. Now, you'll take a look at this board here. Look at the stages. Now, the stage where my mom was diagnosed is stage 4. There's about 11% survivability rate, and at stage 1, 90%. And despite the effectiveness of this colonoscopy that can figure this out, only 50% of Americans use this procedure. I think that's a very shocking statistic. Compare that prevention rate with breast cancer, where over 80% of women get a routine mammogram. And you can see why I work so hard to spread the word on preventing this disease. But there is some outstanding news. The outstanding news is that there is hope ahead in fighting this killer. The Centers for Disease Control, along with groups like the American Cancer Society and the Colorectal Cancer Coalition, have taken it upon themselves to raise awareness about this disease. Specifically, the American Cancer Society has launched a campaign to push the number of Americans who get screened for colon cancer from 50% to 75% by the year 2015. It's a lofty goal, but it's a goal that's worthwhile. In fact, a few of my colleagues have introduced important legislation aimed at reaching this mile marker. One particular piece of legislation that I hope will receive strong consideration in the House Energy and Commerce Committee is my legislation, H.R. 1330, the Colon Cancer Screening and Detection Act of 2009. My legislation is pretty simple. Just like a mammogram, my bill would require every health insurance plan in America, both group and individual, to cover a preventative colonoscopy before the deductible. This legislation is very badly needed. One of the top reasons many Americans do not get screened is the cost. The average cost of a typical colonoscopy is over $1,000. That wouldn't be a concern to many citizens who are currently covered under a private health insurance plan, but most health insurance plans have deductibles exceeding $1,000. Or worse, they have a restrictive cap on preventative care, sometimes as low as $250. And that's the issue. We have thousands of Americans who are covered by insurance plans that pay little to none of the cost associated with a colonoscopy, so they never get one. It's a shame. We live in the greatest country on earth, and many of our citizens choose not to get a highly successful, life-saving preventative test because their health plan doesn't cover it. I'm aware that the health insurance industry is totally opposed to my legislation. They will argue that my bill will dramatically increase the cost of insurance, but there's little evidence to support their claim. They said the same thing when members of Congress pushed hard to require insurance plans to cover mammograms in an effort to increase the rate of early diagnosis of breast cancer. Yet almost every single state in America requires insurance companies to cover a mammogram, not subject to the deductible. Furthermore, it has been well documented that once colon cancer has progressed into a latter stage, the health care costs for treatment skyrocket and the survival rate plummets.